Chapter 18. This story is starting to hurt. We spend the next morning walking around the grounds, taking in the beautiful gardens. The lush trees were a century old, and there were over 150 varieties of flowers. The grounds were covered by blooms in an array of colors and was the perfect setting for weddings. The lilies and roses were Katya's favorite. We made our way back to view the 500,000-gallon swimming pool. I read that in 1947, Esther Williams used it when they were there filming a movie. At the moment, there were only a few people in the massive pool, but by the end of the day, I knew it would be full. After lunch, we took a bike ride to see some of the sights around the island. Katya was experiencing a little pain, but she managed it with Tylenol and ibuprofen. We stopped to see Fort Mackinac. It had been the sentinel of the Straits of Mackinac for over 200 years. The guides were dressed in period costumes, and we got to see cannon and rifle firing demonstrations. There were 14 original buildings, and all were filled with settings for the period. We toured the exhibits and watched some of the videos. The next place we went was to the Butterfly Conservatory. It was an all-glass conservatory with lush plants surrounded by hundreds of butterflies fluttering around in special greenhouses while soft music played in the background. "This is so awesome," Katya said, holding my hand as we sat and watched all the different colors and breeds of the fascinating little creatures. "It is pretty amazing." She sighed, taking in the glass sections surrounding us. "You know, I read a book about a woman who had a near-death experience, and she said that in heaven, the colors are even more vivid and beautiful than they are here. I'll bet the butterflies there are brilliant looking." I opened my mouth to speak, but my voice caught, and I had to wait a moment. "I'm sure you're right, Amore." I was unable to say more. She turned and smiled lovingly, and I knew that no other words were expected or needed. I kissed her hand, holding it against my heart as we took another moment to look before getting up to leave. That evening, after we had dinner, we went back to our room and watched Somewhere in Time. Katya said that since we were there, it was only fitting. This time, I had a video cable with me, so we hooked my computer up to the television and watched it. But this time, as I viewed the movie while holding Katya close, it was far more emotional for me. When we came to the part where Richard was showing Elise all the features of his decade-old suit and pulled out the dated penny that drew him back to the future, taking him away from Elise, I literally felt my heart break. And by the end of the movie, when Richard was lying in the hotel bed, dying of a broken heart, tears brimmed my eyes. I quickly blinked them away, not wanting Katya to think I was turning into a blubbering idiot. Then I heard her sniff and felt her tears wetting my shirt. I said nothing, just tightened my embrace, wishing I could take her into myself and keep her with me always. After a moment, she sat up and smiled. "Tomorrow we'll go and see the gazebo and stables, okay?" Caressing her cheek, I smiled back and said, "Okay." Chapter 19. Life Imitating Art. On our last morning in Mackinac, the pain began to worsen. We had just awakened when Katya sat up as it hit her harder than normal. She released a low groan and took a few deep breaths. I kissed her brow. "Sweetheart, the Tylenol and ibuprofen are not going to work anymore." She looked at me sadly. "I know." I wiped her tears away, trying hard to keep my emotions at bay. "Will you get my meds?" Kissing her cheek, I went into the bathroom and grabbed the large zippered pouch she kept her medicine and supplements in, grateful we had gotten the prescriptions filled. She normally took a vitamin, along with large doses of ginger, ginkgo, vitamin C, a few cups of oolong tea, and over-the-counter pain relievers when there was pain. Now, in place of the over-the-counter medicine, she would take morphine, a low dose of antidepressants, and another medication to control the nausea. She had put it off for as long as she could. Now she would have no choice. The doctor had been amazed she'd stayed healthy for as long as she had. He attributed it to regular exercise and a good diet. I just constantly thank God that Katya and I realized our love for each other before it was too late. Filling a large glass with water, I poured the recommended dosage from each bottle into my hand, then added the regular amounts of supplement and took it in to her. Dumping all the pills into her hand, she took them all at once. As I watched her, I briefly wondered how long it would be before she could no longer do that. I quickly pushed the thought away. She lay her head against my shoulder, and I held her as close as I could without hurting her. The last thing I wanted to do was cause her additional pain. I reached for the bakery box on the nightstand and gave her the last sweet roll to eat, since she was supposed to take the medicine with food. She took a small bite, and then another, and chewed slowly. "I'm sorry, amore," she said, touching my face. "As soon as the meds kick in, I'll shower and dress and we can go." "You have nothing to be sorry for. We can go whenever you want. I just don't want you to overdo it, all right?" "I won't, but I don't want to spend our final days stuck in a room. Even if we just go out for a little while, I'll be happy." "Just promise me you will let me know when we need to come back." "I promise." At that moment, everything inside me ached, just thinking of her suffering, and I wanted to curl up in a ball and cry. But I needed to be strong for her. She wanted to enjoy our final day in Mackinac, and that's what we would do. When she drew back a little and looked up at me, I smiled and kissed her lips. She gave me a brave smile in return. "I think I can go shower now." "Okay. While you are showering, I'll order up some breakfast. Hopefully it will be here by the time you're done." "Okay." She stood and leaned down to kiss me. "Ti amo, Angelo," she whispered against my lips. "I love you too, Duchessa." I quickly ordered our breakfast and pulled on yesterday's pair of jeans. Then I knelt and prayed, thanking God for Katya, and tearfully pleaded for many more months with her. I stayed on my knees until room service knocked. When Katya came from the bathroom, I had everything ready, and we sat down at the table to eat. She looked at me a long moment, not missing the fact that I'd been crying. I smiled, and she smiled back, tears brimming her tired eyes. The medication was affecting her already, and I worried about going out. She suggested that we go out and sit for a while on the porch and people watch. I grinned, glimpsing a small spark in her eyes. She was being so brave. My brave Katya. We did sit on the porch and people watch for a while. The row of white rockers sat pristine in the morning sun. There were a few empty ones between us and a small group of guests. The view of the sea from where we sat was incredible. We held hands and silently enjoyed the soft sounds around us. Then Katya suggested that we get up before she fell asleep. We browsed the gift shop once more. I purchased a grand hotel music box for Katya, loving the way her eyes lit up when she gazed at it. It was a replica of the one Elise owned in the movie, and when you opened the lid, it played the beautiful Rachmaninoff theme from the movie. Katya, in turn, bought me a replica of the pocket watch Elise gave to Richard. On the face was a picture of the two lead characters. "Thank you for this," she said, kissing me and hugging the package containing the music box. "Thank you for an amazing honeymoon." She smiled, her eyes full of love. "I feel like Elise, and you're my Richard. Oh, love, if I could only go back in time and save you. Thank you for the watch and for marrying me." I pressed a hand to her cheek. "And I doubt Richard could love Elise any more than I love you." She wrapped her arm around my waist and I held her to me, wishing I could find the words to tell her exactly what she meant to me. We went back to our room and Katya lay down to rest for a while. I curled my body around hers and napped with her. When we awakened later, we ordered dinner in and began to pack. By the time our meal arrived, Katya needed to take more pain medication. After we ate, we changed and got into bed, leaving the rest of the packing until the morning. I held her for a while and we talked. Glancing down at her arm, I lightly ran my fingers across the scarred tissue from the burn she'd gotten as a child. I probably should have had something done to it, she said, raising her eyes to mine. I'm glad you didn't. Raising her arm to my lips, I kissed the scar. It is a part of you, and I wouldn't want you to change it. She smiled. I can still remember the day a little. I vaguely remember getting the burn, but I do clearly remember trying to wake my mother up. And you were there, and you made everything better. I tightened my embrace, allowing myself to fully remember that day. Suzanne and I had been arguing, again. I still wanted children, she didn't, but I soon came to realize it was for the best. Katya's eyes turned misty, and I knew she had guessed where my thoughts traveled. I'm so sorry I can't give you a child, Angelo. Don't be sorry, I said, brushing my lips over her temple. You are enough. But when I'm gone, I will still have my memories of you, and I look forward to the day when we can be together again. We will be together again. Swallowing against the lump in my throat, I said, we will. Chapter 20, The Vows. Katya slept through most of the plane ride home. During the trip, I pondered how I had dreamed of taking her back to Mackinac one day for the Somewhere in Time weekend. She would have loved it, but now that dream, like so many others, would not be possible. The thought saddened me so much, I fought back tears. On our way to the house, I stopped by the hotel restaurant and ordered some of Katya's favorite soup and sandwiches to go. When we made it home, I encouraged her to go up and change into her gown, while I brought everything inside. She came down, we ate our meal, then we unpacked and put everything away. I set the music box on her bedside table so she could always see it when we awakened each morning. Katya finally took her medication and lay back against the pillows, watching me put the last few things away. I opened the music box and she smiled, her expression melancholy as the rhapsody gently played. I sat down on the bed beside her. Can I get you anything? I asked, brushing the hair away from her face, tucking a lock behind her ear. Her eyes suddenly filled and tears spilled down her cheeks. What is it? I'm just so sorry to put you through this. Oh, Angel, don't be sorry. I love you. You are my wife, and this is my place. She began to sob, and I crawled over next to her and took her in my arms, pressing my lips to her brow and rocking her slowly. Don't cry, baby. Please don't feel sorry. My own tears fell into her hair. I drew back a little and looked into her eyes. Do you remember our vows? We promised each other, Katya. I promised you we would get through this together. Holding her close, I softly recited our vows. I promise to love, honor, and cherish you, and always be faithful to you, through the good times and the bad. My love for you is unconditional, Katya, and I promise you that my love will see you through clear skies and stormy days. No matter what comes, I will love you through it, forever and beyond. That will never change, Tesora. Pressing her closer still, I silently pondered our time in Mackinac. If there is one thing I have learned from the story of Richard and Elise, it is that true love transcends all things. Regardless of the circumstances, there is always hope. My voice cracked. And though I will lose you for a time, I have hope and the faith that we will be together again. I know we will. That it is that knowledge that will keep me going on. Katya touched my cheek. I love you, she whispered, raising her mouth to mine, and I let the passion of her kiss roll through me. latching on to all she offered, her sweetness consuming me. These moments would forever be branded in my memory, each one logged and filed in the annals of my mind, to be cherished, savored, and experienced again when the day finally came that she was no longer beside me. I woke up just after 5. It was Monday, and there were meetings scheduled. For the first time in a long time, I wished I didn't have to go. The thought of being away from Katya was physically painful, and before going to sleep last night, I pondered conducting my meetings from home via the internet. My accountants could also meet with me there. I would speak to everyone about it when we met that morning. My plan was to go downstairs and get a workout before showering. It was still dark, and I took a moment to lie still and listen to Katya's soft breathing, the strong longing to hold her close and stay in bed all morning causing me to linger longer than I should. Sighing, I finally eased from the bed, not wanting to wake her. Quickly changing, I went down to the exercise room, had a JKD workout, lifted weights, and went for a quick swim. After showering and dressing, I went to the kitchen to get a glass of juice and a croissant for Katya. Taking the small breakfast up, I sat it on the table, along with her pain meds. "Hi," she said sleepily. I sat down beside her and kissed her brow. "I didn't mean to wake you, Amore." "It's okay. I didn't want to miss you." "I'm sorry I have to go." "Don't be sorry. You have to do your job." "Well, after today, I will be holding my meetings here and taking advantage of internet access." "Really?" "Yes, that way I'm always here, unless there's a major problem at the hotel that I need to take care of, but hopefully that there won't be." I caressed her cheek. "Can I do anything else for you?" She shook her head and smiled. "Just hurry back." "I will," I promised, lifting her hand to my face, holding it against my cheek. "Adagio? Angelo?" "Before you go, I was thinking, how would you feel about me getting Kate to cut my hair?" Gazing at the gorgeous ringlets splayed over the pillow and shimmering in the early morning light, I said, "I'm fine with it." I would miss the long, luxurious locks, but I understood her need for taking care of her hair easier. "You will always look beautiful to me, no matter the length of your hair." She softly caressed my face, letting her thumb brush my lips. I leaned down and touched my mouth to hers. "I love you, my heart." "I love you. Are you sure you're going to be all right?" I couldn't help worrying. "I'll be fine, my love, I promise. I will even order some groceries and have them delivered, and I'll make us dinner." "You don't need to do that. I worry about you overdoing it." "I want to, Angelo." Her eyes were earnest and imploring. "I need to." Understanding her need to feel useful and do things for me for as long as she was able, I swallowed back the tears and nodded, wishing my emotions were not always so close to the surface. "Okay, Angel." I kissed her once more. "Ciao, Katusha." "Ciao." Katya. Feeling the pain slowly coming on, Katya took her medication with the juice, ate half the croissant, and lay in bed until the pain began to relent. At 9, she called Kate and asked if she had time to come and cut her hair, hoping she'd caught her at a time that she wasn't suffering from morning sickness. Kate and Lee had called Angelo and Katya the night before to welcome them home and share their news. Kate was finally pregnant again after years of trying. Angelo and Katya were happy for their friends and would not allow sadness over their own inability to have a child diminish their joy. Kate assured Katya that she was fine this morning and always had time for her. She came right over. "What do you think?" Kate asked, handing Katya a mirror when she was done. She had given her a very short, tapered pixie cut. Katya's eyes moved over the thick tresses covering the floor a moment before gazing at her reflection. "I love it. Do you think Angelo will like it?" He will love it, Kate assured her. Honey, you could have the worst haircut in the world, and that man would still think you were the most beautiful woman in the world. Katya smiled. I still can't believe how much he loves me. Kate grabbed a broom and started sweeping up the hair. Angelo's heart was always meant to be yours, Katya. How thankful she was for that. Blinking tears away, she nodded, brushing a hand over her short hair. Thank you, Kate. You're welcome. She tied a small ribbon around the thick lock of the hair and handed it to Katya, saying softly, Keep it for Angelo. Giving Kate a watery smile, Katya accepted the hair. She would place it in a small keepsake box she brought back from the honeymoon. After Kate left, Katya took a quick shower and dressed in a bohemian-style skirt and a light sleeveless crocheted blouse that she'd purchased on Mackinac Island, wanting to look nice for Angelo. Then she put together a list she ordered. She ordered groceries and had them delivered. As soon as she put everything away, she threw together a meatloaf and put it in the oven with a couple of baked potatoes and set the timer. By the time she finished, she was so tired she lay down on the couch in the family room and covered herself with a light blanket, immediately falling asleep. I pulled into the driveway, so grateful to finally be home. There had been many things on the agenda during the morning meeting with the management, and it took longer than normal, which put me behind schedule, making me late for the meeting with the accountants. Before leaving, I made sure everything was in place for conducting future meetings over the internet. I also stopped by the restaurant and grabbed some of Katya's favorite orange cream cake for dessert. Dinner smelled wonderful as I entered the kitchen. Hi, Katya said sleepily, sitting up in the family room couch. Placing the laptop and cake on the counter, I went in to her and sat down, immediately taking her in my arms. I touched her hair, taking a moment to just look at her. She was so beautiful, and the haircut made her striking gray eyes stand out even more. Do you like it? She asked. I love it. You're beautiful. Thank you. How are you? I'm okay. Just glad to see you. Pressing a kiss to her lips, I murmured, I'm glad to be home again. Now that I'm with you, all is right with the world. She grinned, and I kissed her again, warmth rolling through me at the feel of her hands in my hair. She pressed herself against me, and I gently tightened my embrace, not wanting to hurt her. She was so fragile. Angelo? She whispered, parting her mouth from mine and looking into my eyes, her own imploring, mirroring the desire I was sure she saw in mine. Are you sure? She nodded, that irresistible smile curving her lips. What about dinner? It can wait. She drew my head down, claiming my kiss again, then moved her warm mouth over my jaw, her lips lightly grazing my neck, and I groaned. Si, Bella, it can. Later in the night, as I lay holding my sweet Katya in my arms, I again relished the feel of her warm breath on my bare skin. I found myself counting those breaths. Each and every one was precious to me. Earlier, I had lain with my head against her heart, listening to each beat, finding comfort in her hands holding me there, and her whispered words of love against my ear. I would never take those things for granted. I couldn't. Every moment was everything to me. She was everything.